Boise State takes on San Diego State. 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff on Black Friday. Boise's -2.5, totals 44. We're 6-0 in our last 6 college football tier package picks on BrockPage.com. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website at BrockPage.com. We're also hitting at 76% in our last 18 college football tier package picks on that very same webpage in that same category. We currently have over 995 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you find yourself really enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please feel free to hit that subscribe button as well and join the Brock Page family. Now, the Boise State Broncos, they've won their last 4 straight, 5-2 against the spread in their last 7. And as a matter of fact, the Broncos have successfully covered the point spread in all 5 of their road games this season. They're in the top 10 in fewest road points allowed in the nation. Scott Matlock has 7 sacks thus far in the season, 41 tackles for the D linemen. Meanwhile, J.L. Skinner's leading the team in tackles with 83 of them. The safety also has a pair of interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. The Broncos are in the top 10 in the country in fewest fourth quarter points allowed. They're taking on a San Diego State team who failed to cover in their last 4 straight. 1-5 ATS in their last 6. The Aztecs throw for a pitiful 145 yards a game. They're also 114th in total offensive yards per contest. Now, total-wise, 5 out of San Diego State's last 7 contests fell under the number. Meanwhile, Boise State saw their last 6 straight fall under the line themselves. 8-1 to the under in their last 9. I'm going to lean toward Boise State -2.5, under 44. Next contest, Eastern Michigan versus Central Michigan. 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff on Friday. The Central Michigan Chippewas are -8.5, total 64. But despite winning their last 3 straight, the Chippewas have failed to cover in 5 out of their last 9 ball games. Central Michigan has really struggled to slow down the passing game. They're 112th in pass defense. They're also 117th in defensive turnovers. They're taking on an Eastern Michigan team who's done a really nice job throwing the football themselves. Ben Bryant's completed nearly 70% of his passes for 2,700 yards. Hassan Beydoun and Dylan Drummond, they've combined for nearly 1,500 yards receiving together. Eastern Michigan scoring 33 points a game, and they rank in the top 25 in fewest offensive turnovers. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Eastern Michigan's last 5 got over the line. Meanwhile, Central Michigan went 3-1 to the over in their last 4 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Eastern Michigan, -8.5, over 64. Next ball game, Kansas State versus Texas, 12 o'clock Eastern start time on Friday. Texas is -3, totals 52. Now, the Longhorns have lost their last 6 straight, 0-6 against the number in those losses. The Longhorns are allowing over 32 points a game. They're 112th in rush defense. They're taking on a Kansas State team who won 4 out of their last 5 themselves, 4-1 against the spread in those ball games. The Wildcats are in the top 15 in the country in fewest road points allowed. They also have a top 25 pass defense away from home as well. Felix Adudike-Uzoma is 3rd in college football with 11 sacks on the season. Meanwhile, linebacker Daniel Green has 72 tackles, 3 sacks, and a couple of fumble recoveries. Now, total-wise, Kansas State saw 5 out of their last 9 get over the number. Meanwhile, Texas saw 3 out of their last 5 home games get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Kansas State +3, over 52. Next matchup, Ohio versus Bowling Green, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff on Friday. Ohio's -5.5, totals 49. The Bobcats won 2 out of their last 3 ball games, 5-2 against the spread in their last 7. Ohio's done a really nice job of running the football. As a matter of fact, they're in the top 3 in rush yards per game on the road. Demontre Tuggle and Armani Rogers have combined for over 1,300 rushing yards and 13 scores. They're taking on a Bowling Green team who lost 6 out of their last 7, and they do a terrible job stopping the run. The Falcons allow 33 points a game, and they rank 110th in rush defense. Now, total-wise, 6 out of these teams' last 10 meetings fell under the posted total. Meanwhile, Ohio's 4-1 to the under on the road, 7-4 to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward Ohio minus 5.5, under 49. Next contest, it is going to be Utah State versus New Mexico, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Utah State's minus 16, totals 49. The Aggies won 5 out of their last 6 ball games, 5-0 straight up on the road this season. The Aggies are in the top 20 in road scoring. They've done a real nice job throwing the football. Logan Bonner's thrown for nearly 3,000 yards, along with 27 touchdowns. Bonner's favorite target, Devin Tompkins, has over 1,500 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. Tompkins is averaging over 137 yards a game receiving. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, Utah State has a top 15 pass defense on the road. They're taking on a New Mexico team who lost 8 out of their last 9. They successfully covered the point spread just once during that span. The Lobos are averaging just 12 points a game, and they're throwing for just $1.16 per contest. Needless to say, the Lobos are dead last in the NCAA in scoring on average per game. Now, total-wise, no surprise here. New Mexico is 7-2 to the under in their last 9. Meanwhile, 5 out of Utah State's last 8 fell under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Utah State minus 16, under 49. Next matchup, Iowa, Nebraska, 1:30 Eastern kickoff. The Iowa Hawkeyes are minus 1.5, totals 41. Iowa's on a 3-game winning streak, 9-2 straight up overall for the season. The Hawkeyes are in the top 10 in defensive yards per play on the road. Dane Belton has 5 interceptions on the season, 7 PBUs, and 37 tackles. Meanwhile, Riley Moss has 4 interceptions himself, 30 tackles, and a couple of pick sixes for Moss. The Hawkeyes are giving up just 16 points a game, and they're leading the country in defensive turnovers. They're squaring off against a Nebraska team who lost their last 5 straight, just 1-7 straight up in their last 8. The Cornhuskers are 112th in first quarter scoring. Quarterback Adrian Martinez has been battling a shoulder. Looks like he could sit out Friday as well. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Nebraska's last 3 fell under the line. Meanwhile, Iowa's 3-1 to the under on the road, 7-4 to the under for the whole year. I'm going to lean toward Iowa minus 1.5, under 41. Next ball game, it is going to be UTEP versus UAB, not on our big screen, but that's going to be a 2 o'clock Eastern start time. UAB's minus 13.5, totals 50 and a hook. The Blazers lost 2 out of their last 4 ball games, 108th in pass offense at home. And speaking of home, the Blazers play their worst football on their home field. They're 113th in second quarter scoring in front of their home fans. They're taking on a UTEP squad who went 6-2 against the spread in their last 8. The Miners are currently in the top 15 in defensive yards per play on the road. They've done a really nice job defending the run away from home as well. Brian Hayward, has 93 total tackles on the year, 3 PBUs and a scoop and score for the linebacker. Meanwhile, Jadrian Taylor has 6.5 sacks on the season as well. 3 out of UTEP's last 5 road games fell under the number. Meanwhile, UAB is 7-4 to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward UTEP plus 13.5, under 50 and a hook. Next matchup, it is going to be Cincinnati versus ECU, 3:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff on Friday. Cincinnati's minus 13.5, totals 58. This Bearcat defense is in the top 5 in defensive yards per play, and they have arguably the best pass defense in the country. Deshaun Pace has 4 interceptions on the season, 75 total tackles for the linebacker. Meanwhile, Joel Dublanco leads the club with 89 tackles, along with a couple of sacks. The Bearcats are in the top 5 in defensive turnovers. Meanwhile, offensively, Cincinnati's averaging 40 points a game. They're taking on an ECU squad who struggled to throw the football at home. The Pirates also rank 110th in third quarter scoring. Now, total-wise, ECU's last 2 straight got over the line, 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Cincy. I'm going to lean towards Cincinnati minus 13.5 over 58. Next ball game, another one not on our big screen, but it is going to be Coastal Carolina versus South Alabama, 3:30 p.m. East. Coastal's minus 15, totals 56. The Shants score a whole lot of points, and they're currently in the top 3 in offensive yards per play. Grayson McCall's thrown for over 2,300 yards and 22 touchdowns. Javon Hiley and Isaiah Likely have combined for over 1,700 receiving yards and 16 touchdowns. The Shants are also in the top 15 in the nation in rush yards per game. They're taking on a South Alabama team who's on a 3-game losing streak, and they also dropped 6 out of their last 8. The Jags have run the ball poorly all season long. They're currently 103rd in the nation in offensive yards per play. Now, total-wise, 3 out of the Jaguars' last 5 home games fell under the number. Meanwhile, Coastal's 4-0 to the under when traveling. Give me Coastal Carolina minus 15, under 56. Next ball game, Mizzou, Arkansas, 3:30 Eastern start time. Arkansas is minus 14, total 62.5. The Razorbacks won 3 out of their last 4 ball games, 5-1 straight up on their home field. The Hogs have done a really nice job running the football, and they currently rank in the top 10 in home rush offense. Traylon Smith and KJ Jefferson, they've combined for over 1,000 yards rushing on the ground. They're taking on a Missouri team who lost 3 of 4 on the road this year, and they covered the number just 1 time in those road games. The Tigers allow over 235 rush yards a game on the ground. They're also giving up 35 points a game, and they rank 109th in total defensive yards per contest. Now, total-wise, Missouri's 3-1 to the over when traveling, 7-4 to the over for the whole season. Meanwhile, Arkansas is 7-4 to the over for the whole year themselves, 5-1 to the over on their home field. I'm going to lean toward Arkansas minus 14 over 62.5. Next ball game, UNLV versus Air Force, 3:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. Air Force is minus 18, totals 49.5. Now, the Falcons have failed to cover in 3 out of their last 5 home games. They're 108th in the country in fourth quarter scoring. They're taking on a running Rebel program who's 4-1 against the number when traveling this season, 8-3 against the spread overall for the year. This Rebel defense is in the top 30 in the country in fewest first quarter points allowed on the road. Jacoby Widman has 6.5 sacks on the season, 102 total tackles for the linebacker. Meanwhile, Austin Agiaki has 74 total tackles on the year himself. Meanwhile, offensively, running back Charles Williams is rushing for over 100 yards a game and scored 13 times on the ground. Now, total-wise, 4 out of UNLV's last 5 ball games got over the line. They also went 80% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Air Force. Meanwhile, the Falcons' last 2 straight got over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward UNLV plus 18 over 49.5. Next contest, it is going to be South Florida versus Central Florida, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The UCF Knights are minus 18.5, total 62. UCF is yet to lose a game at home this year. 6-0 straight up at the Bounce House. Top 15 in defensive yards per play at home. Tatum Bethune has 83 total tackles and a pair of interceptions. Meanwhile, Bryson Armstrong has 77 tackles and a couple of PBUs. UCF has a top 10 rush defense at home. They're taking on a USF team who lost their last 4 straight, and they find themselves just 2-9 straight up for the entire season. The Battling Bulls have yet to win a game on the road this season. Meanwhile, offensively, they're 110th in offensive yards per play. Now, total-wise, the Bulls are 4-1 to the under on the road. UCF's 4-2 to the under on their home field. I'm going to lean toward UCF minus 18.5, under 62. Next ball game, Colorado versus Utah, 4 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Utah's minus 24, totals 52.5. The Utes are on a 4-game winning streak, 7-1 straight up in their last 8. The Utes are still undefeated on their home field, and they have a top 20 rush defense at home as well. Mika Tafua has 8.5 sacks on the season, 42 tackles for the D end. Meanwhile, Devin Lloyd has 91 tackles along with 6 sacks as well. Utah's in the top 20 in fewest home points allowed. They're taking on a Colorado team who's 0-4 on the road, and they do a terrible job moving the football. They're 122nd in offensive yards per play when traveling. Meanwhile, defensively, they're also 122nd in yards allowed per play on the road. Now, when it comes to the scoring of this one, Colorado's 3-1 to the over in their last 4 road games. Utah's 8-3 to the over for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward Utah minus 24, over 52 and a hook. Next matchup, TCU, Iowa State, 4:30 Eastern start time. Iowa State's minus 14.5, totals 60. The Cyclones lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games, 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. The Cyclones really haven't been clicking offensively at home. They're also 106th in second quarter scoring on their home field. They're taking on a TCU team who won 2 out of their last 3, and that includes an epic win over Baylor. The Horned Frogs have run the ball quite well this season. They're in the top 15 in offensive rush offensive rushing on the road. Zach Evans and Kendre Miller have combined for nearly 1,300 rush yards and a dozen scores. The Horned Frogs are in the top 25 in first quarter scoring. Now, total-wise, 3 out of TCU's last 4 road games got over the number. Meanwhile, Iowa State saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward TCU plus 14.5, over 60. Next matchup, UNC versus NC State, 7 o'clock Eastern kickoff. The NC State Wolfpacks minus 5.5, total 63. And the Wolfpacks undefeated at home, 5-1 against the spread in those 6 home wins. NC State's in the top 10 in fewest home points allowed. They also have a top 15 pass defense at home as well. Drake Thomas has 90 tackles on the season, 6 sacks and 3 interceptions for the linebacker. Meanwhile, Vi Jones has 40 tackles on the season, along with 4.5 sacks. NC State's got a top 20 rush defense as well. They're taking on a UNC program who's yet to win a game on the road. They're 0-3 straight up when traveling, and they failed to cover the point spread in all 3 of those losses. Surprisingly, this North Carolina offense ranks 100th in road scoring. Meanwhile, defensively, they're 114th in second quarter points allowed. Now, total-wise, 3 out of UNC's last 5 ball games got over the line, 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, NC State went 2-0 to the over in their last couple of games themselves, 6-3 to the over in their last 9. I'm going to lean toward NC State minus 5.5, over 63. Next and final matchup, it is going to be Washington State versus Washington, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. The Washington State Cougars are -1, totals 44. WAZZU's been very good against the number here recently, 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 ball games. They also played great defense on the road. They're in the top 5 in the country in road pass defense. Ron Stone has 5 sacks on the season, 1 forced fumble, and 57 total tackles. Meanwhile, Jahad Woods has 96 tackles along with 2 forced fumbles and a pick. The Cougars are in the top 20 in fewest points allowed away from home. They're taking on a Washington team who's struggled to move the football this year. They're 118th in offensive yards per play at home. Meanwhile, defensively, the Huskies have been really unable to stop the run. They're 115th in home rush defense. Now, the Huskies have gotten the W in just 2 of 6 home games. When it comes to the total in this one, the Huskies are 9-2 to the under for the season, 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with WAZZU. I'm going to lean toward Washington State -1, under 44. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our shout out of the day. And that's going to go to Keanan MC, who said the other day, "Bro, you're a beast at this. Keep making Vegas cry." And certainly appreciate the comment. Guys, real quick, I don't know why we didn't include the quick pick recap in the script here today. I'll include that in the comments section, in the description section. But anyway, guys, got to remind you one more time, we're 6-0 in our last 6 college football tier package picks on BrockPage.com. It's an incredibly hot package right now. Information for that package, once again, is in the description and comments section below. But with that, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Real quick, guys, if you do end up getting a membership here today on BrockPage.com, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, happy Thursday to you. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at BrockPage.com.